Hi, everyone. I am Dyllan McGee. I'm the founder and executive producer of Makers. And welcome to Makers at Home, coming to you live from Westchester, New York. I could not be more excited for our interview today with Nadia Hallgren. Nadia is the brilliant director and cinematographer behind Netflix Becoming, the film on Michelle Obama's life as told through the lens of her Becoming book tour. Nadia also has a long resume of extraordinary films that she's made, and somewhere in tiny print is also she worked with us at Makers on our Makers Men piece on Kumail Nanjiani. So we are going to have fun today. We're going to talk about her film. We're going to talk about her career. We're just going to have fun together. And amazingly, even though we have these connections, we've never met. So, Nadia, get ready. We're about to meet. Here we go. Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
We did it. We had a
We
couple
did
intros,
it.
but
I'm here.
you know what filmmaking is all about.
It's lots of problems. That's what it's about.
I know. I know. That's what makes these lives good, right?
Yes, yes. It's awesome. Great to
All
see
right,
you today.
Nadia, I want you to know I put a little extra work. I've never done this before because you're my first cinematographer. I was like, I need some lighting. So,
Well, you
so
look fantastic, so
feel,
thank you. I
feel free
appreciate it.
to direct me, tell me to do anything. I'm sorry about the glare in my glasses.
No, it's
Okay. Can we start with a little congratulations that you are Emmy nominated for your incredible documentary?
thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
I mean, it's a big deal. It's a
It's a
big deal.
big deal.
And
It's my
for
first
those of us,
film too, so it's my first feature.
I mean, you're nominated. And isn't there like there's something, you're also the first or second for both to get both directing and cinematography, something like that?
That might be right. Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think it's a few firsts, so that's exciting. It's always nice to do something like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, everyone, just so you know, you're going to have to tune in September and watch Nadia win her award because you're going to win.
Thank you.
We're
I
getting the good
appreciate
vibes
I
already.
appreciate the support for sure. For sure.
All right. So we're gonna kind of I'm gonna geek out over you, Michelle Obama, your film, your career. So put on your seatbelt because I'm a
All
big
right.
fan here.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's nice to get the love.
It's a lot. I'm sending it through the screen here. So first of all, can we just get like something out of the way, which
Let's do
is
it.
like, are you friends with Michelle Obama? Like,
Yeah,
is she
we're friends. Of course we're friends. I love Mrs. Obama, Michelle Obama. She's just one of the most incredible people I've ever met. And yes, I would say we're friends.
like you're real friends? Okay, that
Yeah.
changes this whole thing. I mean, we're talking to her friend here. So what was it like watching your friend give that rousing DNC speech just a couple days ago?
It was moving. It was incredibly moving. I think just because I know that she means every single word that she says and how deeply she feels what she's saying. And so, it was emotional for me, just like, everyone else that watched it.
But even I felt like I'm like she's talking to me. I mean,
She
that's
is talking to you.
I mean, she was really talking to you, but okay, I'll take it. I mean, you really, just to get into that a little bit, I don't think people understand when you're a verite filmmaker,
Hmm.
you are right up close constantly with this person.
Yeah.
And I mean, in the film, she comes off, it's so beautiful. You get such a sense of her, but she is that strong Michelle Obama always. And I'm wondering, did you get to see a vulnerable side? Is she ever nervous?
Yeah, she's nervous to go. She was nervous to go on stage every single night. I think that it's a healthy nervousness. Like she's done it before, and she's done it hundreds of times, I'm sure, at this point, going in front of these large crowds. But I think she's so thoughtful about what she says and how she connects with people that, you know, there's always a sense of, you know, about to go on type of feeling that she has.
Good. She's human.
Totally human.
How about you being human? Tell us about getting this job and how it came about and what it was like, and did you have to pitch yourself?
So a little bit, I'll tell you from the very beginning. So I was home one day and I was just sitting at my kitchen table, kind of the way I am now, and my phone rings and it's Priya Swaminathan, and she runs Higher Ground Productions. And so she's just like, hey, I'm working with the Obamas now, and Michelle Obama is getting ready to go on this worldwide book tour. And we're sort of floating this idea to her about documenting it. We don't know yet if it'll be a film or if it'll just be something that lives in Mrs. Obama's archive. But, you know, we wanted to reach out to you and see if you were interested. And, you know, I'm like, this is wild. Like that's like a crazy phone call to get.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, of course I'm interested. And she said, you know, whoever does this job has to have the ability to have a very small footprint, to be able to work alone at times, perhaps because of the way Mrs. Obama moves through, you know, the world. She has a Secret Service detail. Everything happens very quickly. There's no slowing anything down. And, you know, they knew that my cinematography background really lent to that being possible. So that was the first step. And then,
okay, so first you just get this call literally out of the blue. You're sitting there and
completely out of the blue. Yeah, completely.
Nadia, that's amazing. So then
Yeah.
I'm sure you had to meet her before.
Yeah. So anyway, so I hang up with Priya and I was like, that's a crazy phone call to get, right? And then I was just like, I appreciate being considered, but I'm never going to get that job, you know? And I just kind of went about my business, didn't put too much thought into it because I didn't want to, you know, get excited about something that the chances of that happening in my mind were so slim. So, a few phone calls later, and then one day an email pops up that says, you have an appointment at the office of Michelle and Barack Obama. And like my head just, I was like, what? I was like, this is crazy. Like, what do I do? I'm not like, how do you even prepare for something like this? And I think what is the scariest thing about that is, you know, you now take the next step where it's like, this is my opportunity to win or lose, you know, like I need to do something special here to present myself to Mrs. Obama in a way that convinces her that I'm the right person for this job.
No pressure.
Oh, okay. None at all. None at all.
Talk about nerves. If I were the person about to walk in, I think I'd be sweating a lot. I'd be nervous.
Yep. All that happened.
Did it all happen? And you walked in? And what happened?
So I walk in her office and, you know, she's kind of standing in the far corner. She's sitting in the far corner and she stands up and she's tall and beautiful. And I'm like short. And, you know, I'm just like, oh my goodness, this is really happening. And she stands up and we kind of walk towards each other to meet in the middle of the room. And so I extend my hand and, in my nervousness, I give her the worst handshake. This was not a power handshake at all. It was like fingers intertwined. It was just, I was like, wow, this is, you know, in my mind, I was like, you messed this up already. And she was just like, actually, I'm a hugger. And she just gave me this big hug. And it was just like what I needed to calm me down. And then we just sat down and we just talked. And she makes it really easy. And it felt like, I just felt like I knew her forever in that moment.
And you got it on the spot, let me guess.
I got the job on the spot. Yes, I did.
Well, she's a smart woman because you're a powerful, extraordinary. I mean, this film it's not easy to do. I watched some interview that you had where you explained, you know, it's so easy to do, you know, as a filmmaker, you can just go from the beginning to end to tell a chronological story. But you had this sort of incredibly complex architecture to your film, which is you have the tour, you have her life now, and you also have all of these amazing characters who pop in, who may only have one moment, but I ended up the film feeling like I got to know them just as well as I got to know her. So I just have to say, there isn't a question in there, but just a congratulations, because it's really brilliantly put together. And I wonder, was
Thank
that,
you.
so
Yeah, I
was
mean,
that
one thing I have to
challenging?
say is I have a tremendous editorial team, creative team that I worked with, that worked tirelessly, that was so committed to achieving what I had hoped for this film. And it was not a small task at all. I mean, you know, I like to describe our edit as, you know, when you see like a mathematician trying to solve like the world's problem that no one could solve, and they have 10 chalkboards with all these variations. That's how our like story card board looked. And we moved things and we tried things, and it was just like, we just didn't stop until we made it work. And we, you know, the pacing had to be right. We wanted the emotion to be right. You know, I love that you can laugh and cry in this film kind of at the same time, and that's what it felt like being with her. And so I really wanted to, for me, I was just like, I'm having this experience, this up close and personal with Michelle Obama. How do I translate this experience to an audience? How do I bring this thing that is happening to the world? And I think that was always just the what I thought about like every moment that I worked on this film.
Well, you really did. You really achieved that. And I'm curious if you ever, you know, now that you say that you guys are friends, verite is, I don't think people know how intimate that is. And you said like sometimes you just have to be a fly on the wall, but sometimes you have to sort of push and get that extra moment. So I'm wondering, did you ever, you know, feel like, oh my God, I just pushed too hard and she hates me? Or did you ever have to push? Or what was that verite relationship like?
Yeah, so you know, I think what I knew right away.
Oh no, she just froze. What a cliffhanger. Before we were friends. All right, Nadia, don't go away. You're like, this is amazing. I think she's coming. The suspense. Thank you all.
All right, I'm back. I'm back. Hey, sorry about that. I don't know what happened, but it was a good cliffhanger, right?
It's again. We all our comments were about.
All right, thank you, everyone. It's technology, bro. Like we said, filmmaking. I try to explain filmmaking to my mom, and I'm always like, it's like 95% problem solving and like 5% creativity. So before, you know, so I get this job, and I just got thrown into it. There was not much time between my first meeting with Michelle Obama and actually being out in the field filming with her. And, you know, it just felt like every moment mattered. And so I didn't really have this time to like warm up to her and sort of do the thing of like getting to know and all that. So I just told myself, like, you have to get close to her. You have to get close to her. And I mean, like, physically close. And imagine she's like surrounded by Secret Service all the time. You know, I think in our own minds, she holds such a special place that I was intimidated by her, not because she was being intimidating, but it's just it's all in our heads, right? So
Yeah.
you know, I had to muster up a tremendous amount of courage to just say, like, I'm not going to be afraid, and I'm gonna like just get in there. And you know, as I did that, I was like, okay, any moment one of the agents is going to be like, you need to back up a little bit. And they didn't. And she's so warm and friendly, you know. She didn't even like pull back, you know, like I would literally like be brushed up against her, and she was fine. And I think that that's part of how we even developed our relationship. You know, it's just this actual physical closeness that she's completely comfortable with. And that it really broke the ice quickly between us.
And she never turned to you and said, Nadia, you need to go away right now.
Never, never, ever. I mean, in fact, she probably leaned in a little bit closer. Like, that's really just the type of person that she is. And, you know, I always felt tremendously comfortable in that proximity to her.
But what were the biggest challenges? You talked a little bit about that there isn't a lot of archive on her. What were some of your biggest challenges?
Yeah, you know, that's a great point. I mean, the challenges were, you know, at the beginning, it was just sort of that. It was understanding this choreography that sort of happens around her. Following her isn't like following anyone else I've ever met. And so I really had to understand what happens, you know, what vehicle she gets in, how things move, like being when it's okay to be in front of her, when it's like get out of the way so she can move, you know. And I had to pick this up really fast because I didn't want to become like the person that was like a problem, right? It's like what do you do? Like, get out of here. But so Secret Service were fantastic. They always kind of had my back, you know, because remember, I'm doing all this with my head buried in a camera.
I
So
know.
you can't really see around you. So sometimes they pull me, like, if I was going to bump into something, or, you know, and I'm like, thanks, guys. So that was a challenge that I felt like I overcame quickly. Some challenges were, you know, just, again, the psychological challenges of having this incredible responsibility that I felt, you know, I felt like I was just on this like mission, right, to tell this story that I knew was so meaningful to people in this moment where we didn't even know that this moment wasn't the moment we're in right now. Remember, this was, you know, a year ago. So it was just so, it was such an important contemporary story. But then I had to think historically that, you know, in 25 years when people watch this film, what are they going to get from it? And that this was going to be a document that probably lived on, you know, just like way past my own lifetime. And so all these kind of like trying to track all these things was, it was a lot while I was making a film, but, you know, just had to figure out how to push through it and
So much
get it done.
pressure.
A lot
You're
of
right.
pressure. A lot of
It's not
pressure.
just
I'm not
film.
gonna lie. It was a lot of pressure. Yeah.
A lot of pressure. So when was that pressure relieved? Like when Netflix liked the film, when she liked the film, when did you feel that pressure leave you?
I felt that pressure leave me probably like 2 weeks ago. I think, you know, her liking the film was huge. You know, I think when you make a film like this, you know, you're not going to please everyone in the whole world. It's just impossible. You know, everyone sort of, or people want different things or have different expectations. And that's okay. That's okay. Especially when you're making a film about, you know, is probably one of the most famous people in the world. So when she liked the film, that was huge. You know, it was a huge relief for me. But then, you know, there's still this idea of what happens when this goes out into the world and understanding the global reach that this film was going to have. And, you know, just the not knowing how people were going to receive it.
Yeah. Well, they've received it pretty well. And I want to just get into a little bit about how, again, it's what's the amazing thing about you as a filmmaker and Michelle Obama as a person is it's so much more than that in the film. And there are some characters who just, I mean, that young woman who is sort of like, why did you pick me? And you go home with her and they're dancing at home.
Mm-hmm.
You know, tell us about her and that, why that's important to you in the film.
Yeah, so you know, so going back to the original meeting that I had with Mrs. Obama, and you know, she asked me, so what are your ideas for a film? And I told her that, yes, of course, I wanted to tell her story and follow the tour and be in the moment, you know, the verite opportunity to be with her as she went out again. And it's kind of like figuring out who she is. Like, that's such a wonderful storyline. But I was also interested in the act of storytelling and what it means to go out and share our stories and to receive stories. So I had very early on knew that I wanted to try and include other people's stories in this film. And that's also like a complicated thing to do editorially, but I figured we can crack it. We could figure out how to make that work. So I didn't know who those people were going to be. I just knew that if I spent time with Mrs. Obama, that magical things were going to happen. You have that faith as a documentary filmmaker that you just know things are going to happen. And if you are, you know, tuned in enough, you're going to catch those moments as they happen and you're going to know it. And so that's kind of what happened. You know, I went out with her and I knew that in addition to going to do these arena tours, that she was going to be having these smaller group meetings with community groups and young people. And so I just kind of always had my eyes open for what could these other stories possibly be. And one of my ideas was that one of the stories could perhaps reflect a young Michelle Obama. Mm-hmm. So when I met Shayla and I learned about, you know, what her family life was like, I was like, this is a 16-year-old Michelle Robinson home with her mom and Craig. And so, you know, I really wanted to show what that parallel of like, you know, this is what an American family looks like. It looked like it with the Robinson family, and it looked like this with Shayla's family. And, you know, we all kind of have this interconnectedness.
It is, you did it brilliantly. I felt I was teary through the whole thing. I could feel the up and coming in so many of them. Um, you know, at the end of the film, you have Colbert interviewing, you know, it was the last tour. And it's so powerful that, you know, he says, one thing I miss right now is hope. And there is, you watch this documentary and there's so many moments where you just feel hopeful and you just want to cry and you feel so nostalgic. And I'm wondering, I mean, what was your big takeaway? What did you want people to take away from this film?
That's a great question. I really wanted people to take away this the the values that Mrs. Obama has, and the how important they are to her, and how people respond to them. I think it's like these simple truths that she lives and believes in that make her so special, and that we're all capable of achieving and showing that same love to each other and compassion and empathy. And that's something that I really was interested in people taking away. And again, this sense of interconnectedness that I really believe in was something that I hoped people would get from the film.
That and more. I mean, again, we don't have enough time, and I could talk about the film. There's so many little things that I
Yeah,
just
and
want
there's
to
so many other
geek
things
out
that, you know,
on.
I
Oh
think
my
that's like
God.
probably the high level version of it. But
No,
yeah, there's so many things. I mean, every second of the film was crafted to sort of.
it's so brilliantly every little nugget, you know, whether God, I mean, from Craig, her brother, teasing her about the belt. I mean, they're just like all these from those little moments to the big moments. But we're gonna move on because we don't
Okay.
have enough time. And I'm not gonna leave this without talking about you and your career and what, you know, the hope that, you know, you have brought to filmmaking. You know,
Thank you.
just
That's a lot.
tell everybody about, you know, so you are a woman who, you were a young girl in the South Bronx, and how did you see
Yep.
yourself as a filmmaker? How does that girl get to today?
I know, that's a great question. Born and raised in the South Bronx, I came up not having, I don't even think I imagined what my life would be like as an adult. That's how little I saw of my own future, to be honest. And so I didn't have any hopes and dreams or anything like that. And then when I realized that I was like growing up and I was still around, I was like, okay, I have to figure out something to do. So the short story is I was encouraged by my mom to go to a photography program that International Center of Photography had in the South Bronx. They had a community program where they taught kids how to take black and white photographs, documentary photos. And that's where I was originally introduced to the idea of storytelling and documentary filmmaking. And, you know, one thing led to another, and I got very interested in making documentaries, mainly because I was exposed to them, and it was the first time that I thought that I could uh, start figuring out a way to make sense of my own life and where I came from, and sort of, you know, all the complexities of growing up where I did. You know, one of the most probably neglected and impoverished places in the country, especially at the time, was what the South Bronx was, and I didn't understand why my life was so had to be so different. You know, from I could take a 15-minute train ride into Manhattan and saw, you know, shiny buildings and clean streets and people going to work and kids going to college, and that reality seemed so far from my own.
So what was that moment then that, I mean, just to hear you say that, like, you didn't even think about what your future was going to be. So what was that moment where you felt like, I'm a filmmaker? Was it someone who believed in you? Was it a film you
Yeah, I
made?
mean, I got my very first break. You know, I mean, it was the moment that changed my life. It was better than hitting the lottery, but woman named Tia Lesson, who at the time, she's a fabulous director who directed Trouble the Water and many other films, but she was working as Michael Moore's producer at the time. Just happened to meet her at a local, very community film festival, and she hired me from meeting her that one time,
Oh God, sorry. Keep going.
she ended up hiring me to be a PA on Fahrenheit 9/11. So she hired me to be a production assistant on Fahrenheit 9/11. I was a terrible PA. I didn't know anything. I was like the kid that, you know, messed up the copier, brought the wrong copy. Like, you know, I had never really worked in a professional environment before. And she didn't give up on me. And the cinematographer on Fahrenheit 9/11 is a woman named Kirsten Johnson, who's also a fabulous director. And I saw a woman doing something that I dreamed of doing, and that just gave me like an inkling that it could be possible. And that vision changed it forever. And then
I love it. Such a story of
and then so those women brought me up. They mentored me, and they, you know, they're the reason why I'm here today.
So you're, you know, one of the things that we're going to do with Makers, and we're going to rope you in at some point, is that there is that moment, even before there are a lot of organizations that are shining a light on sort of up and coming filmmakers, but how do we get those young girls to even see filmmaking as an option? And so we're going to try to create a program around that. So I wonder what your advice is to, you know, young girls who, you know, may not even see a dream in filmmaking.
I would say that just the fact that I'm here, I believe that anything is possible. You know, I encourage you to dream bigger than even seems realistic, almost like ridiculous. Because if I would have told myself, you know, at 15 years old or 20 years old, that I would direct a film about Michelle Obama, that I would, you know, be nominated for Emmys and have all these opportunities, like, I would have laughed. You know, when I told people I want to be a filmmaker, people laughed at me because the idea of it was so ridiculous. It was impossible. And so, you know, I just encourage everyone to dream as big as they can. The dream that makes you laugh to yourself is the dream that you should try to go for.
Oh, I'm gonna have a t-shirt with that. I love that. So now you know, I mean, talk about opportunities. I'm sure you now get to pick and choose. What's next for you, Nadia?
Wow. So right now I am currently directing a new feature documentary about attorney Benjamin Crump, who is the attorney representing the George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor families in the moment. In this moment right now. And so what I'm trying to do with this film is, you know, tell the extraordinary life and work of this man, as well as all the people that work with him, because he just has this incredible network of individuals from all different backgrounds, which I love. And also try to make sense of this moment, understand what's happening, how we really got here, and how deeply entrenched racism is in America, you know, in ways that I think oftentimes are not expected, are not known, are not very clear.
Well, that will be the brilliance of your filmmaking, because you can find those little moments that people don't even see. And so to be able to show racism, you know, this systemic racism in this country through your lens is going to be pretty powerful. Are you able to film during COVID? Are you out there filming? Or
I'm out there. You know, people are filming. It is, you know, again, problem solving. So like making a documentary isn't hard enough. Let's add a pandemic on top of it, you know.
A bunch of pandemics.
Yeah, a bunch, right?
Yeah.
So we're out there, we're being safe. You know, we are, there are lots of protocols around filming right now, and we're being very selective what needs to be filmed in the moment, what can wait, and, you know, but also trying to capture what's happening in this world, in this country right now, in a way to document it properly.
Well, before we let you go, I do want to just get a little sense. We love to find out what got people through COVID. If you had any, like, what are the 3 things that got you through, Nadia?
I am excited to share.
Okay.
This is my yoga mat. This mat has helped me in more ways than you can imagine, whether it's, you you know, doing yoga at home, which I never ever did before. I never worked out at home. I was always big on like, I need to go somewhere and do the thing, and working out at home. You know, those moments in the day where you're just hitting a wall, you're like, you want to go back to bed, but you're like, I can't give in, I can't give up. 5-minute nap on a yoga mat, it, you know, changes everything. And great place to meditate, which I started doing a lot more during this time, and that really saved me.
Do you do it, are you self-guided, or do you actually have someone guide you?
I use Headspace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Okay.
that works good for me. And yeah, so that's.
How about yoga? Who's your teacher?
I have a local yoga. I was doing hot yoga.
Ooh.
So now I do the same poses, but in steamy, hot New York City apartment. So it's pretty similar to the humidity right now and the temperature, I would say. So.
All right. So what else got you through?
Coffee. The
Is
coffee
there,
I
is
grew
that
up
a
on.
particular brand? It's backwards.
I know. Okay, so this is Cafe Bustelo.
Oh, okay.
It's the coffee I grew up drinking. It probably costs like $4. So it's not bougie. But it will wake your ass up.
Good.
And this is one of my favorite books. Again, it's backwards, but it's called The Mindful Athlete, and it is written by George Mumford, who I just think is wonderful. And it's about you know, it's about many things, but I think for me, it's a book about how to perform under stress. And it's something that I really had to learn how to do, and how to do it in a way that is thoughtful and mindful, and allows me to be kind to people and thoughtful, even though there's lots of, you know, things happening around me, and not, you know, they get like, you got to stay centered and focused and don't get frazzled and all that stuff. And this book has helped me tremendously. So The Mindful Athlete.
All right, The Mindful Athlete. Yeah. We all need that. Had you read it? Is it one of those things you go back to and you read?
Oh yeah, all the time. All the time. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Well, my last question to you is, you know, for our makers audience, they love stories, they love filmmakers. You know, any parting words of wisdom from Nadia for all of us?
Wow.
Vote.
You know, again, I think my takeaway of this moment is believe in yourself, even if, you know, not everyone around you necessarily does. You know, you have to believe that you know, we are all just capable of doing so much more than I think we could ever imagine. So believe in yourself, and nothing is impossible. Again, even in these times of you know, the world is very, very complicated, but you know, we can handle so much more than we think. And you know, turning crisis into opportunity and ways to see how strong we really are, I think is for me, has been a huge key to growth.
Well, there's something so hopeful about you. And I'm hopeful that the camera will turn, and I can't wait to watch the documentary on you.
Oh.
So get ready.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you for everyone that like tuned in today. It's really amazing to see.
It's so happy to have you here. And everybody, make sure if you're an Emmy voter, vote for Becoming.
Thank you. And vote in the election.
And vote in the election.
Other than the Emmys, please vote for the Emmys. But you know, if you don't want to vote for Becoming an Emmy, just vote.
All right, Nadia. Great to meet you.
All right,
thank you. Kiss.
Take care. All right, bye.
Bye.